But we didn't expect, I think, this kind of dominance right out of the gates.
You have to question if you can argue Sinner maybe the best defensive. I mean, I know Alcaraz gets to a lot of balls, but Sinner gets there and then unsprings on it, right?
What if I told you that some of the greatest tennis players to ever hold a racket, men who spent over a decade ruling this sport, are now sitting back in awe of a 23-year-old from Italy? Would you believe them if they said they didn't see this coming? Because that's exactly what's happening right now with Jannik Sinner. Everyone knew Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz would be good, maybe even great. That was the easy prediction, but nobody, not the commentators, not the coaches, not even the legends who came before them, expected this level of dominance this fast. And the scariest part? They're making it look easy. So today we're breaking down exactly what tennis's biggest names are saying about Sinner's game, his defense, his footwork, his serve, his mind, and why so many of them believe they're watching one of the greatest peaks in tennis history unfold in real time. Let's start with a question that's been dividing tennis fans for the last 2 years. Who covers the court better, Sinner or Alcaraz? According to several former world number ones, Sinner might actually be one of the best defensive players tennis has ever produced. That might sound strange because we usually associate Alcaraz with chasing down impossible balls. But here's the difference legends keep pointing out. Alcaraz retrieves and survives. Sinner retrieves and attacks. He crouches low, almost making himself small, and then explodes out of that position to rip a winner from the deepest corner of the court. One former top player admitted he was genuinely shocked the first time he watched it happen live, not on television, in person. That's how different it looks up close. And here's a fact that puts this into perspective. Covering that much ground while still generating enough racket speed to hit clean winners is one of the rarest combinations in the sport. Most players sacrifice one for the other. Sinner somehow keeps both. But movement is only half the story. What really seems to be breaking legends' brains is his mental game. Think about this for a second. Sinner has gone through public controversy, a doping case that dragged his name through headlines, physical breakdowns in brutal heat, and through all of it, he still doesn't get broken easily. In matches against Novak Djokovic, arguably the greatest returner the sport has ever seen, and against big hitters like Alexander Zverev, Sinner has faced only a single breakpoint per match in some of his biggest wins. One breakpoint in an entire match, against players built specifically to break serve. Ask yourself, how many athletes could carry that much off-court pressure and still walk onto a court looking completely unbothered? That composure is exactly what keeps coming up when legends talk about him. Win or lose, his post-match reaction barely changes. A tough loss at Roland Garros where his body gave out? He simply says he needs to figure it out, then moves on. A big win? Same calm tone, no wild celebrations, no dramatic collapses. Just measured, simple answers every single time. Now here's where it gets really interesting because the comparisons legends are making aren't just to good players. They're comparing Sinner directly to Novak Djokovic at his absolute peak. Multiple former top-ranked players have said Sinner's game mirrors peak Djokovic almost eerily. The reasoning? Both barely miss. Both make opponents feel like they have to overhit just to create an opening. Both live on the baseline and refuse to give away time or space. One legend even said something remarkable, that in their rallies against Djokovic, Sinner didn't just compete with Novak's baseline game, he played it better than Djokovic himself. Stop and think about that claim for a moment. This is Novak Djokovic we're talking about. The player almost nobody could out-rally from the back of the court, aside from Rafael Nadal. And yet, according to players who have stood on the other side of the net, Sinner has done exactly that. So what actually makes his ground strokes so dangerous? It comes down to being proactive. Legends repeatedly highlight that Sinner takes the ball early, off the bounce, before it drops into a comfortable strike zone for his opponent. Every shot has intent. Every shot gains ground. Compare that to a player like Zverev, who often hits at similar speeds but tends to rally just to stay in the point. Sinner isn't rallying to survive, he's rallying to hunt for the next short ball, and his footwork is quick enough to let him do it point after point. And then there's the serve, often the most underrated part of his game. Multiple opponents describe it as deceptively unpredictable, with excellent variety and a second serve that stays deep and heavy rather than short and safe. He rarely double faults, which means opponents can't gamble on a free point. Combine that with his ability to follow almost every serve with an aggressive first strike, and you get a player who never really lets you settle into a rhythm. Even Rafael Nadal, when asked directly about facing Sinner, admitted the physicality of those baseline battles is brutal, the same kind of grinding 20 and 30-shot rallies that used to define matches against Nadal himself. Nadal's blunt conclusion? Struggling against Sinner isn't the problem. The problem is that struggling against him doesn't stop him from winning anyway. So here's the real question tennis fans keep asking. Can Sinner actually reach the Grand Slam numbers of Nadal, Djokovic, or Federer? Even some of the biggest legends in the sport hesitate here. The competition today is deeper, the hitters are bigger, the margins are smaller. But almost every single one of them agrees on one thing. If you put peak Sinner or peak Alcaraz on a court against a prime Nadal, even on clay, it wouldn't be a joke anymore. It would be a real contest. That's not just praise. That's history being rewritten in real time. So now I want to know from you, where do you think Sinner ranks among the greats right now? Is he already a top 5 talent of this generation, or does he still need more Grand Slam titles to earn that spot? Drop your take in the comments below. If this breakdown gave you a new appreciation for what Sinner is actually doing on court, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because we're covering the biggest stories in tennis every single week, and you won't want to miss what's coming next.